Cold outreach is broken, open rates are dropping, reps are burning out. But what if your sales team never slept and never missed a lead? I interview Jim Weldon, the CEO of Prospect Desk. We talk about the rise of smart agents in sales prospecting, how they're automating 80% of the grind, enriching your data, syncing with your CRMs, and pre-qualifying leads before you even lift a finger. But this isn't just another AI hype fest. We'll get into the real challenges, from personalization and tech complexity to why humans still matter in a world of agents. If you've been wondering how to scale your outreach without burning your team or your brand, this is the episode for you. Why should people be thinking about using agents to do their prospecting?
I think there's three things that come to mind on that as we look at it internally. Number one, the amount of repetitive tasks sales teams and prospecting marketing teams, SDRs, are required to do that don't involve actually talking to a customer. I think the last study was 80% of them, of the tasks they do, are something that can be automated. So I think that's the first reason you want to look at agents or smart agents. The second thing is the learning. It can see things in the data you can't. It can help you identify ideal customer profiles more quickly, the channels they come in from. We have confirmation bias as humans. So it's like, oh yeah, it's coming in from search. It's coming in from paid campaigns. And then when you really look at the data, you find out that's not really the case. We like some of the brands coming in, but they're not part of our ICP. And I'd say it's a little more ruthless in a good way on how to analyze his data. Then the third thing is it's like anything. You have to figure out how to execute and implement and deal with the change. So instead of getting rid of the SDRs, what we're doing is we're creating a digital twin org chart, which is how do we use these agents and name them? So if there's we're doing in-market audiences, that process is called IMA. So IMA works with Vinny, who's a real person, an SDR, and he has 5 teammates that are not human that do discrete tasks from 4 to 15 things in the background that he normally would do, and he gets to kick off. So he actually runs a team of agents underneath him. So I think we're in that period of exploration, which is how do we bring them together, which is what's the human's responsibility, what's the agent's responsibility. And to wrap that up, I would say there's, the people that aren't testing, exploring this are going to miss out on a huge opportunity for leverage. That's why I would implement agentic bottom line leverage.
Do these agents also have the capacity to have conversations with the human that they're working with, kind of like to build a relationship and rapport with them? Or are they literally like ChatGPT that's just sitting there waiting to have you tell it to do something? Or it's just constantly doing the things that it's programmed to do, and you just go, hey, by the way, also do this thing too. Like, how does the actual communication work?
Yeah, that's how it started. It was passive and waiting is where we started. Then we started looking at, hey, can I initiate a process or conversation via Slack? So that becomes our interface. So it can Slack the actual digital teammates to get them to do something, which is pretty cool. But no, we haven't activated the voice side of it, which is where it's going. So eventually you'll be able to, instead of saying, hey, Siri, you'll be able to say, hey, Pam, because Pam is our master controller, the MCP of all of our agents. Then we know if Pam, what are all the agents active that are with this SDR? You're actually going to be, voice is going to be the last interface. That's going to be the ultimate interface.
But I mean, like in the current state, even if you can send it messages through Slack, for example, will you be getting messages like, hey, did you have lunch? Hey, are you done for the day? Can I talk to you about something? Like, are they acting like humans and trying to build an emotional connection with the human counterparts? Or is that just not necessary?
Not yet. I think that's where it's going. I think I'll call it the humanizing and intimacy component is definitely on that path. But it starts with rudimentary things, which is, request response. It starts there. And we're still fundamentally figuring that out. Then there's going to be anticipation and prediction of recommendation. Hey, I think I should talk to Jim because these tasks aren't done. Or is there anything he's working on outside the system I haven't seen that I can help with? Those aren't here yet, but we're still in the request response cycles on what's going on with AI and smart agents.
Do you think the humans enjoy working more with the agents because they don't talk back, they don't have feelings, they don't have times that they clock out, they can do things whenever you need them to?
Some of the people we work with, yes, because they're introverted and they'd like to minimize the interaction. But I would say we've formalized our amount of interactions on the team so we don't get people completely disconnected from other humans. So I would say there's a fine line to watch. You don't want to do that totally because then you'll have these people in their own little isolated worlds. I don't think that's healthy.
So let's say, for example, you were talking about Vinny, and Vinny's got 5 agents he's working with.
Yep.
Let's assume he's managing them. Who is responsible for recognizing the need for X number of agents and then building that team and then deploying that team for this human to then be a part of?
So it's we have a digital execution manager that sits over PAM, which is actually an MCP controller. It's a fancy way of saying it's the orchestration layer for the agents. So there's a actual person that looks at the discrete role, Vinny's SDR role, sales development role, helps him define all the processes, then goes into our pool of employees, digital smart agents, and says, hey, Vinny, these are the 4 you want to work with. So there's a manager that sits at top that really helps design the playbook. And that's the way this would work. Instead of it being like a battle card or a tear sales sheet, instead of it being, they're having to decide themselves as an SDR, it's more of a, hey, what do we want to get done? What's the playbook? And then Vinny coordinates with his manager. The manager coordinates with Pam, who's digital. Pam coordinates, that's our prospect activation machine. That's why it's called Pam. The MCP controller, fancy way of saying orchestration layer. And then we build a playbook of 5 agents for Vinny, and then it goes and works with Vinny. What we're working on now is a dashboard that looks at the velocity and throughput of what was Vinny's baseline of activity and interactions and success compared to with the agent team. So do we see a 2 or 3 or 4x leverage in throughput and success? So that's who decides. It's a coordination between his manager and himself.
So let's say someone like myself has a business that's just starting out. I've figured out my offer, I've figured out who my ICP is, and I want to have access to more potential leads. But there's so much time and energy that has to go into prospecting for myself because I'm trying to do a million other things. I don't have a Vinny, I don't have a manager, I don't have any of those things. So, how can I do this for myself? How can I build my own team of agents like this?
You wouldn't want to. You'd want to partner with a company like VMG we work with. They offload those activities because as a solopreneur or 1 or 2 person firm, super hard to implement on your own. You don't want to do it yourself. You want to leverage a service from a third party. We power those third party partners because to bring all this stuff together, it's daunting because you have to understand what the demand side platform is. If you want to run retargeting, you have to understand how to put the meta tag in a single impression ad to activate a social audience. You have to understand how to use Pressmaster to get content out. You have to understand how to tie your tag infrastructure into PAT, right, which is our prospecting activation tag. PAT's responsible for all enrichment and de-anonymization. That's just no way you do it as an entrepreneur. You would come in and say, hey, I want to pay $500 a month for an SDR agent. Here's my CRM. Here's my email system. Here's my tag fire for my website. Call it a day. 2 logins, a tag on the website, you're done. That's 15 minutes of setup. That's where it's going to go for the small business. The problem is, do you have enough volume of visitors to make it worthwhile? Or is there enough search volume for IMA in market audiences to go and market to them? My experience with small business, they're going to get left behind in a lot of this. The SME and up are really going to take advantage of this.
You were mentioning search volume and all of that. So it's not like they're looking on LinkedIn and trying to find out who the ICP is from the ICP information that you provide. They're not like trying to go on LinkedIn and find potential clients for you and then reaching out to them and doing cold DMs and trying to get them to book a call, and then the agent takes the call and then gets them to pay, and then you just provide this. Like, it sounds like there's an email component there as well.
A what component?
Cold email or something.
So that was just one activation channel. Everything you just described is Lynn, our LinkedIn navigator. That's Lynn. Everything you described on LinkedIn, it can do. So it can go out and profile the company you're part of. It can determine if you're an ICP. It can determine if you have the right title. It can then do a direct message out to you. It can then send you a link that says, let's set up a meeting. It can answer a voice call from you and say, hey, Jim's not available. I'd love to set up a meeting for you. That's our Alex. Alex is our voice person that handles our inbound phone calls. And it's pretty freaking good too. It's crazy. So yeah, it's all the activation channels are available through the smart agents. There isn't one we can't do. It can Slack with you. It can do a chat bot with you. It can email with you. We just have learned in business to business or in e-commerce, especially those two, email is still the killer communication channel, full stop. I'll still read an email in business if it's crafted properly. And when you abandon cart or you go to a website, you're trying to buy something and you leave, if I can capture and identify your email, it's just still a fantastic way to drive business. So if you look at how big e-commerce is and you look how big B2B sales are, doing one-off B2C, it's, okay, it's hard because people are so finicky. But when you're in an e-commerce cart, you were way down the path. Something happened to drive that abandoned cart. So you were right at the precipice of a sale. So
Yeah, I've thought recently. I'm quite new to Google Analytics and tagging and all of this stuff and pixels, and I'm used to other people doing those things, but I've been trying to learn for myself. And it is very complicated, as you were mentioning before, trying to figure all these things out and trying to add these little pieces in and then understanding all the details. It's very difficult. I have come across a lot of people that have YouTube channels and whatnot, and they say, oh, I can create an agent team for you in 20 minutes using N8N. What's the difference between what those guys are doing and what you're doing?
we use N8N. N8N is just a low code. It means you can drag an object and link it to something else to create a process flow. There's like 5 or 6 of those platforms like that are really well funded and work well. The issue is, once again, it takes a lot of cycles to figure this out. To get something rudimentary that demonstrates a quick, rapid prototype, super simple. To make it work functionally, yeah, good luck if you haven't done it. It takes, I don't want to say weeks, but it takes us 4 to 5 days from idea to finished alpha. It takes another week or 2 to get to beta, which is something that we can use in the wild. Alpha we use internally for ourselves, and we use every single agent starts with us. Then if we really like its approach, we take it to a partner. Then if the partner goes, this is cool, and we give it to them to use, then we say, let's go find 5 customers. That's when it goes to the wild, because the partners don't count. They're closely aligned with us. So if it fumbles, you're okay. But to get it so it's customer facing in a beta, it takes some discipline and some learning cycles. It probably took us 2 solid months to really get our hands around how to get it to a proper beta, just the overall architecture of our system. And by the way, you have N8N, you don't have the data. We do. So now you have activated this system that's only relying upon a form fill or, grabbing your general, Google Analytics data. You don't have any real data to drive ICP scoring, lookalike audiences, activating, retargeting. Sure, outside of that, you could do it yourself. People are well undergunned. They don't know what they don't know what they don't know at the end of the day. And that's why it's like anything else, buyer beware here. These YouTuber, or mostly Instagram, actually, Instagram is amazing for these things. They're just promoting their stuff to sell their program to get you, to make you feel like it's simple to do. And to build an alpha, super simple. Make it work in your business, more complicated.
I want to go back to the LinkedIn and to Lynn and Alex. So I know that I can talk with ChatGPT about different things that build up over time with memory. So it understands, what my service is, what is the pricing structure, what are the tiers, where people are coming from to find me. Like I can build up this knowledge with it. It can't go and do any of those things on its own. It can't find people for me and it can't sell them. How do you get these bots, these agents to understand what the DM strategy should be if you don't know what it is? Or maybe the AI goes, okay, I know what you're selling. I think this should be the strategy. Is it you tell it everything and then it just applies it? Or does it say, hey, I noticed that if I try this, 5% people convert more than when you told me what to do? Is it figuring out how to do these things better than you can? Like, how does all of that work?
I would say for the most part, for most people, no. I would say the prompting and the strategy piece is probably the weakest thing people drive. I think a couple things. One is understanding how to find who it's working with in the market, whether if it's a LinkedIn strategy. There's lots of people who have been successful that have shared their learnings. So first thing I would do is I would have to do a competitive analysis and the proven programs that have worked and approaches. How does that compare to mine, and what do you think and recommend? It can tactically recommend some good things, but strategically it can't decide very often, here's the customers I want. What it can do is look at and say, hey, here's the customers that have closed that you have. Here's more like it. But it can't blue ocean and say, hey, go make a left here and go take your sailboat that direction. Not as good on that yet. It's getting there, but not as good. So I'd say strategy is still something that as the leaders of the company you want to set. And then I always compare it to what's going on in the marketplace. So what's Ogilvy saying, right? Because Ogilvy has an amazing amount of data presentations, a corpus of knowledge in the market. What is IAB saying? What's the Digital Marketing Association saying? What are their best practices and approaches? Compare what we're doing to them and tell me, give me a gap analysis. That stuff, oh yeah, that's real. That can get you to a very good tactical execution program to test. Then you just A/B it like anything else. Doesn't matter what everybody thinks, it matters what converts. So the way to do that, A/B test it.
So same thing with like Alex. You would say, "Hey, this is my sales script that closes people. I want you to just use this," and it'll.
We don't do outbound on Alex is for inbound. So how do I give that human feel of an operator, we'll call it, more so than an SDR rep? We have found that people don't enjoy those unless they're super well trained. It's really hard to train those right now so that they can answer the. So here's one: ask the same question 2 or 3 times on any of those agents, and it starts to sound like a robot because it gives you the same exact cadence, tone, and response. So it's got some weaknesses in the if you're doing it for outbound. Inbound, it's fantastic. It gets you 4 out of 5 conversations are handled by Alex. Then there's that odd one where it's like, oh, they asked a question that he couldn't handle, and then you go back in and listen to it, and you're like, oh, I understand why I didn't. So, yeah, I would say the auto dialer robots are tough.
Well, I wasn't thinking of it in terms of that. I was thinking it in terms of if someone, let's say my strategy is LinkedIn cold DMs, and let's say Lynn is doing all of this prospecting for me, and then someone says, "Hey, I want to have a call," and then Alex ends up taking the call.
Alex can take the call and set up a meeting for you. And could we have it answer some questions? Sure, but the potential questions are hundreds, not thousands, and we don't have the. As a smaller company, it's somebody like IBM would have a fantastic time with that because their internal memory and knowledge base and corpus of data that they could feed into it would be incredible. But as a smaller company, we have a few hundred artifacts, documents, tear sheets, white papers. That's actually not a lot of data to drive some of these response and question response models.
So Alex can just pre-qualify people who would be prospects for me. He can't actually close a deal and get them to pay.
No, I think you said it perfectly there. I think it does a good job of that screening. And it's like, hey, can I ask you a couple of quick questions? And then you'll say, sure. I just want to make sure I've got this right. So when I talk to Jim, I can get the information over to him. It could ask ABC. We don't do that with him yet. That's where we're going with ours. So you get to 2 or 3 questions. If you're under 10 employees, loser for us. If you're over 10 employees, it's somebody we want to start. You have somebody on your team responsible for performance marketing or lead gen. If they don't, not going to work for us. If they do, we want to talk to them. You have an agency you work with today. Yes, we do. Fantastic. We should probably invite them to the call then, because they'll be the first ones to bury us that they don't want to work with us. It's our number one kneecapper is an agency feels like we're going to take from them instead of supplementing. Then when they hear what we do, they're like, oh, shoot, this is cool. We get to test it for free. And if it works, we get credit and we can do more with, more juice from the squeeze. Yes. More top of funnel prospects to work with. So that's where 3 simple questions we know very quickly if it's in our ICP. We don't care about revenue because we can infer it from employee count. I don't care about industry because, that just gets sussed out when we do the data enrichment. Those are things we do in the background. I don't need to ask those up front. And we capture email. hey, can Jim email you? Can I capture email? Then it repeats it back to you. So we got it right. And we always say business email. We parse the business email and then we can find the URL. We scrape the website on the URL. Then we can go and look at the data and we figure out very quickly if it's in our ICP.
And you have an agent that's specifically doing that enrichment. I forgot the name of it. Sorry.
Yeah, almost all of them do. Pat is the one that'll do it. Some of the stuff with Lynn can do it. So with Lynn, it'll parse it. It'll go back and look at your profile and it'll write a custom message with ChatGPT, turn around and do the DM. The thing we ran into is it tries to write too much, and we hate those.
Yeah. I specifically tell people, do not use a ChatGPT created email template. Like, just don't. I'll ignore you.
It's so obvious from a mile away. So what I did is I sent it about 100 of my what I call founder prescribed emails, and they're completely different. They're bottom line. They're a sentence or two. It asks a question. It gets to the point. And it's usually something a little provocative. Hey, listen, we're trying to partner with folks in your space. We're also looking at acquisitions. I don't know what your appetite is. Love to have a 15-minute call, Sean, and see if you have some time.
Yeah.
And then it might be a PS. Hey, I see you went to Georgetown. So did I. Something maybe just a little personal. Not very often, though, because we usually don't have that much in common. I hate those ones where they over familiarize themselves like they're my buddy. They annoy the heck out of me. You're not my buddy. So I hate the buddy email approach.
Fair enough. So I've spoken with a guy. I interviewed a guy recently whose business is very heavy on LinkedIn outreach. And he said that what he found was when you do a voice message as the first thing, that people are much more likely to respond because they are not used to people sending voice messages on LinkedIn. So they're like, oh, what is this? And they want to hear it. And he said that gets him 7 times more responses.
Oof. Did not know that. I would literally be slacking Vinny on my team to find out a pre-recorded message on that one. That's genius if it works that way.
So he actually he decided to turn this into a product, and he's getting ready to launch it. But yeah, I find it very interesting, and I was talking to ChatGPT. I was talking to Gemini 2.5 Pro yesterday. I was like, hey, what should my cold outreach strategy be? Because I'm changing my business model. I have changed my business model. I'm in the process of putting all the pieces together to make it work. And one of the things was, hey, what should my LinkedIn strategy be for DM? And it was like, well, your first message could be a voice message. Your second message could be a text message that has a link to like an article, like your foundational LinkedIn post that talks about the problem. And then the third thing could be a video. And the video is where you're inviting them to a call. And I'm like, if an AI agent could do all that for me, then that would be excellent. If it personalizes their name, because I've seen some software products that you say the foundational message once as like a video or a voice, and it'll then store that. And then when it has a prospect come through, it'll make it with that person's name in it as if you did it for them right then and there. And so I think if you can make that automated with an agent, I think that would be killer.
Yeah, that doesn't seem very hard.
I don't know how to do it.
We built 13 of these agents. It doesn't seem very hard. The issue is how do you scale it from one to many? And that's what we have found is the challenge. One to one, N8N and those tools work fantastic. One to many, we're still working through how do you do your one to many. That's why it's
one to many, meaning a single instance of an agent supporting multiple clients through multiple needs.
Through multiple customizations, multiple logins, multiple delivery of data to multiple systems. So imagine you're an agency is the model we think of, and you have 10 clients. The way those systems are set up, it's N8N is one configuration into the agency, and then it can't handle the 10 custom deliveries after, or the 10 customizations of the message.
And doing one N8N for each of the clients is not scalable.
It's messy. It can be done if you want to do a dozen, but if I have 25,000 end clients through my dozen partnerships, that would be messy. So instead, what we decided to do was we can do so many cool customizations and get them the copy and content with the agency and the client's ID, deliver it to our partner, who then parses it in their database and triggers it from their systems. So they use their email system, their CRM to help their clients generate leads. Then when it responds, it puts it into the client's end system. So we figured out a workaround to be able to deal with one-to-many, which is we make the agency do the push and the sequencing of the outreach. And then the responses can go to forms and things that are the client side. So the agency has its own CRM, its own marketing automation that kicks it off. It gets a blind copy of everything, so it has a record, but it also then the response pushes everything to the client CRM, which is really, that's what you're trying to do at the end of the day is fill the top of their funnel, unless it's a managed service. Then if it's a managed service, it comes back into the agency. They run it through and use somebody like Master Inbox or something like that, where you can handle 50 different emails for that client. You can handle the inboxes with one inbox, and then you're mastering the top of funnel to middle of funnel. It's doable. It's just not elegant yet.
So what I'm hearing is you don't have your own CRM. You'd prefer clients to work with the CRMs that they would normally use and to enrich data and all of that.
You have to be able to work with 20 different CRMs. You can't push anything on a client. They're not going to change. So it's the agency has one and their clients have 20 different ones. We're used to dealing in those environments. The issue was, how do you do N8N and agentic flows within there? It was a little stumble fumble for a while.
Random question as well, something that I'm just curious about because I hate Slack. You said that you can have conversations with your agents in Slack. Does Slack then count them as seats and force you to pay $5 a month, whatever, to not lose your history with the agents? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, that's fine with us.
Okay.
Because what we do is we put it as @IMA, and that's like an action call inside of Slack for us. Because you put Sean and it comes up with your name. So there's only one unique instance of that name in the system. It's a 3-letter acronym. So there's no ALXs in our company. There's no IMAs. There's no, we don't have any MACs, MAC. That's our, multi-activation channel for our demand side platform for retargeting. It's like a person comes up in the system and it knows to communicate with them. What it's really doing is it's sending a response to another channel, and we're polling that, watching for that @ sign in the name. And then when we see @Mac, it's like, oh, what does it want us to do? Oh, okay, here's the instructions. And it's smart enough to know and kick off something for us. So it becomes just like the interaction window. If you're, on ChatGPT and you put a prompt in, it's just another way to prompt without leaving the system.
Where do you think the next 5 years of this is going?
Oh, God. I mean, I'm listening to everybody from, Jensen and NVIDIA passing 4 trillion in market cap yesterday, to Satya saying, Cursor and software is going to eat SaaS applications, to look at what Oracle's been a quiet sleeper in this whole space. Where do I think it's going to go? I think 2 things. One is nobody knows. I think there will be more process and agent automation is one generic theme, but how does that manifest? No idea. I think the chip wars and the model wars have just started. I mean, if you go look at the amount of large language models that are accessible, it's hundreds now. We only know of the top 7 or 8 because they're so big. But people are going to take their corpus of data and put it up in a private marketplace. And I'll give you one example. Let's say Watson just yucks. IBM decides it's going to put its entire Watson approach to how it does AI and learning and puts it in the general domain. Puts it in a private marketplace and allows you to access all of their research data in a large language model. Holy crap, that would be incredible for deep research. Like, I think that's some natural places. So large language models, I think large action models, which is where agentic's going. I think we're going to stumble and fumble with poor returns on investment for the next year or 2 until the use cases get really well defined. And then there'll be a great marrying between the human and the agentic flows for leverage. And if we sell it as leverage to that teammate, not BS or AI washing it, but if we really do a good job of, and this is what we're doing with Vinny. Vinny's our case study internally. He didn't know anything about agentic, so we put him on a 2-week learning course, which was designed by ChatGPT. And then it was like, if you were going to start from a beginner and this was your job and you want to get to this proficiency level, what would you need to learn? What videos would you need to watch? How would you recommend he tests his knowledge? It was pretty cool. I think we're in the stumble fumble phase in a good way, because we're in full hype cycle right now. It's going to solve everything for everyone bullshit. But there's some smart people out there like Benioff and Ellison and Satya at Microsoft and Sanjay at Google. They are putting Sam Altman at OpenAI. They put $500 billion, the venture and those big seven companies did in the last 24 months. What do I think is going to happen? I think it's going to be the greatest technological change ever, because we don't have a physical limitation. The Industrial Revolution was about physical transformation. So, horse to car, right? Before that, it was steam powered engine to, electricity. Now imagine what's going to happen when you can move an electron. That's all we're moving. We're moving electrons at the speed of light. And guess what? I think change is going to start. It's going to be 4 or 5 orders of magnitude faster than anything we've seen. What, Moore's law is 18 months? What's the law now? They're releasing a new LLM model every 2 days. Some new LLM model somewhere every 2 days is being released. That's insane. Not versions of the big seven, just new LLM models that are of material value. What the heck's going to happen? So anyways, long-winded answer to say, you want to get in the middle of this if you're an entrepreneur or you want to be relevant.